Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rochester Mayor Malik Evans, Assembly Member Harry Bronson, Senator Jeremy Cooney, and the 57th Governor of the State of New York, Kathy Hochul.
Wow, that's like as exciting as the Buffalo Bills winning next year's Super Bowl. I have to confess, I just couldn't turn it on. I watched every down this year. I lived and rose and fell, as all of us did. So sorry, I was with the governor of Kansas and the governor of Pennsylvania as they left our national governors meeting in Washington early because they had to go somewhere. And but I will say that the rest of the governors, this is a true story, all said that they wished Buffalo had been there because Buffalo captured the hearts and minds of a nation. And so I thought that was really powerful. So let's give the Buffalo Bills a round of applause for an outstanding season. You'll be hearing from our extraordinary leaders from this region, and they've all become such good friends of mine. The mayor has such weighty responsibilities, but Malik Evans has stepped up with a sense of optimism and a confidence to be able to lead this community forward. So let's give another round of applause to our mayor, Malik Evans. Senator Cooney has been fighting for his district to bring money back, and I'll be talking about how successful he was in a few moments, but I know he believes in all the treasure of his district, and I know in particular he loves the Susan B. Anthony House, and so I want to thank him for being such a champion for his district. Let's give another round of applause to Senator Cooney. Assembly Member Harry Bronson and I have been friends since I was a member of Congress representing part of his district over a decade ago, and again, he just so loves the people he represents, and he wears it all the time. We know all of his major priorities are fighting for his district. I want to thank Assembly Member Harry Bronson for all he does for us as well. And you have a Dynamite County Executive in Adam Bello. Thank you, Adam Bello, for all you do. Tremendous partner for us. And it's always great to see former Lieutenant Governor, former Mayor, former Chief of Police, former everything, but now the leader of the preeminent Rochester Chamber, which represents all the businesses, and that is the one and only Bob Duffy. So let's recognize Bob Duffy is here. It's great to be back here again. I was here twice last month, but now I have a chance to talk about not just our state-of-the-state housing plans, but also so many initiatives that impact this area. We talk also about, we were here for GM's game-changing announcement to show that they're not making an announcement to leave, as had always been what the case was when I was growing up. Well, another headline about a big business leaving the area, but instead of reinvesting in this area. So electric vehicle production happening right here in Rochester, very exciting. And we are also here in Rochester to announce the $10 million DRI award to help clean up Main and Clinton, because that place is going to be spectacular. That area is going to be really achieving its full potential. So we're continuing to build on all the we've started downtown. We've come a long way. And I'm really proud to be able to be governor during the continuation of Rochester's rebirth and transformation. And you know, the potential is extraordinary. And we're here to recognize this seems to be the big birthday week. I'm aware of that. It's Black History Month, and we celebrate the 205th anniversary of Frederick Douglass, who of course made Rochester his home, and someone we're very proud of. You know, he lent his voice to so many causes, and I'll never forget that he was one of the most powerful voices in support of women's suffrage. Back when the women gathered at Seneca Falls, they let a couple of men in. They let Frederick Douglass in, and he was very eloquent in his defense of women's right to vote at the time. So happy birthday, Frederick Douglass. And also Susan B. Anthony's, his birthday is tomorrow? Wednesday. I knew, Deborah, you would know that. But also, you think about just, you know, how this region has become just a place where we talk about the fight for justice. And all that was brought home to realize we lost another great one. When you think about Rochester's great voices and the loss of Reverend Franklin Florence was hard for everyone. What a life in our own time. We think about these people of the past, Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, but to have lived among one of the greats that will be talked about, who will be talked about for generations to come, lost to his family, but what he did for civil rights in this area and making sure that marginalized voices were heard. And some people say, he's one of the most notable individuals in this fight since Frederick Douglass, and I second that. So our condolences to his family, and let him know and his family know that his work continues through all of us. And I would also say that part of that is lifting up communities, and economic development is that catalyst. When you invest in communities, you invest in facilities and places and businesses that'll create jobs, you're also giving people that dignity to control their own destiny, that they don't have to be a captive to their own circumstances or the neighborhood they're born in or the school they went to. They can have a chance to rise up. So we're continuing to focus on making sure that communities have the resources they need. And that is an important part of bringing this community back. Again, the investments in the Sibley building, I mean, how many years did we go by that building and it just sort of mocked us, a reminder of what it had been. And now to see that place just full of life and energy, it's extraordinary, it's extraordinary. The Strong Museum of Play, which I came to with my children when they were younger, but then it's just developed into this world-class facility that we're all so proud of. And Rock the Riverway, I mean, to have the river here and have it not be taken advantage of the way we are and to unleash the potential. I mean, just the floodwaters of great things that are happening in that area. And of course, Innovation Square, we find ourselves today, perfect example of the new Rochester being built in a place that the old Rochester once occupied, the legacy businesses like Xerox and Kodak. So here we are, finding ways to make this region more affordable, safer, more livable. And this is also an opportunity for us to have more young students live down here. I mean, it's the young people that we attract here. And when I was growing up in Western New York, we always were realizing that our greatest export were our young people. They were heading to places like Texas and North Carolina and everywhere else they could live their dream. And now that doesn't have to be the case. People are coming here. Young people are coming here and realizing there's an extraordinary quality of life and infusing this city and this region with their talent and their energy. So I want to thank the Galena family, Lauren and Evan and Rob and their entire team for executing this extraordinary vision, and also Natalie and Carl Stabenow for this beautiful renovated theater for hosting us here today. You also think about numbers sometimes. I think about places, I think about people. Numbers can also tell a story. And I judge myself as governor since I became governor in August of 2021. What's happened since then? And I look at numbers like the unemployment rate in the state of New York. At the time, it was 7.1% statewide. It is now 3.8%. I mean, those numbers are historic. Rochester, 3.2%. I mean, growing up in Buffalo, there was always a 1 in front of that. That would have been 13.2%. So it's still shocking to me as an upstater to see numbers that tell a very, very different story than we grew up with. And so those are great stories to talk about the number of jobs created. Since I've been governor, 586,000 jobs have been created in the state of New York. Dramatic increase, even here in Rochester, over a 3% increase just in that short. We're talking since August of 2021. So the numbers are trending absolutely in the right direction, absolutely in the right direction. So I'm excited about that as well. And we're deeply committed to this region. This is an area that we're counting on to be an economic engine for the rest of the state to power us through a lot of our decisions, not just in building on the legacy of our former businesses, but also embracing the new technologies. So this is what we're talking about is, again, a more affordable, safer, livable region, and we have it all here. We have it all in this region. And what I want to talk about is an area I feel that the one place we could be held back is in the lack of housing for people. And I'm talking about everything from affordable housing to workforce housing to market rate housing to luxury housing. We don't have enough. And again, what a difference from a generation or two ago when there was plenty of housing, plenty of very affordable housing because people weren't living here. People would leave. There was plenty of housing on the market and a lot of abandoned houses. And now the value of those properties is just extraordinary. But the problem is when you have a limited housing supply, high demand, What happens is, for people in search of a home, you either can't find one or the price is out of your reach. And that could be a barrier to either the young people growing up here, educated here, want to stay here. If they can't find a place that they can afford, they won't stay here. And if we're trying to attract new businesses to come here and bring your corporate headquarters or bring CEOs and bring people at all levels of work, again, housing is the challenge. I wouldn't have said this 10, 15 years ago. It was not a problem for us. But I feel, as having studied this state and know it better than anybody, that this is the area that we have to do much better. So we have to keep up our housing supply. And I have a bold plan. 800,000 new homes over the next decade, I believe, will fill that need to, again, drive down the price, but also increase the supply. Part of it is affordable housing, a $25 billion investment in affordable housing to tear down the old blighted neighborhoods that are just a reminder of failed policies of the past, and building beautiful new housing for people. I've seen a lot of this in Rochester. I've been to many, many ribbon cuttings here. The buildings are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Whether they have supportive housing, I've been to places we built for veterans and places for people with substance abuse problems, mental health challenges, or people just looking for a place to start before they can earn enough money to get their own place, buy a home someday, which is still the American dream. Housing stock needs to grow. In upstate, we think it's a very modest goal to ask that housing grow 1% every 3 years. Many communities can do that easily. For some communities, that's one apartment building. And so let's not be frightened by the thought that we have this, oh my God, what does this mean? It means that we believe in our future so much, and we know that people want to be here, that we're going to offer them a range of affordable and market rate and all kinds of housing, because then they can live here. It's that simple. But also, I know communities are going to say, well, we have additional costs involved. Well, how do I know so much about this? 14 years on a town board, planning board, zoning board, safety board, environmental board. I know all the ways that you can stop a project, believe me. But we let a lot in my town. We stood up against people who didn't support even group homes for individuals with disabilities because of such NIMBYism, such hatred in people's hearts. And we had to stand up against that and bring in affordable housing and break down the barriers. And everybody always said, even senior housing, well, we're not sure about, seriously? We had to overcome that. But once you do it, people say, oh, really, they're wonderful neighbors. It's great, it's fabulous. So just people have this, keeping the status quo is always better for a lot of people. And it's not how you grow, that's how you stagnate. And we cannot live in a state that stagnates. And that is my fear if we don't lean into these bold objectives. So we're going to give money to localities for planning, to help cover the cost of sewers, if they need more roads, more schools. But again, I'm asking everyone to just see the possibilities of what this project will look like. And that's how we achieve our full potential. We also want to make sure that our neighborhood and rural preservation programs, have the resources they need. So we're adding more money right here in the Finger Lakes to provide housing assistance, community renewal, and local rent subsidies for people as they try to get on their feet. But to build housing is great, but you also have to make sure that the neighborhoods are safe. I was just talking to the mayor about this again, and he can talk about some numbers that are trending in a very good direction. But it is still very much top of mind for a lot of our residents, particularly in our urban areas. And I'm committed as the governor to bring all the resources to bear that we possibly can. I've had Zoom calls with localities and bringing together U.S. attorney, district attorney, police officers, police chiefs, sheriffs, everybody, mayors, electeds, anybody he'll talk to me about it. And I say, what do you need? Tell me what you need. For the first time we have police officers from the state police force on the ground here in Rochester trying to help them and creating community stabilization groups that help go out there and just reach out to people and be a supportive hand to our local police departments because they have so much they're dealing with. I'm committed to doing it. We strengthened our gun laws. There's way too many guns still on our streets today that never should even have been crossing the borders to be in New York State. We banned ghost guns because, believe it or not, you could order a kit online and be able to have a gun manufactured at your kitchen table, a lethal weapon, until we ban them here in the state of New York. So we're starting to see results. We're going to continue to have a dramatic amount of money put toward gun violence disruption and help communities stabilize and give alternatives to young people so they have better options, alternatives for after school activities, and a lot of different ways that we can help people just find a different path forward and not feel like their identity has to be associated with a gang on the streets. That if they don't have a strong family structure at home, that family alternative cannot be a gang. It has to be other adults, whether it's through the schools or social services or through the churches, very powerful in our communities. So I'm going to continue to increase the funding we put toward these programs. We're also helping our district attorneys have the resources they need, helping our court-appointed attorneys. They've been making almost poverty wages right now, so it's hard to attract people to do that important work, so we're going to pay them more. And also asking judges to consider more when deciding if someone commits a crime, a serious crime, a violent crime, of repeat offenders, whether or not they should be looking at more factors, as I believe they should, in deciding whether that person goes back home or is held until they have their court date or they have a higher bail. So those are all factors that I want to fix in our laws right now. I believe it can be done, and I appreciate the support of our local officials who really are joined with us in making sure we do everything we can to make our communities safer, because you want to build housing, that's great. You want to stabilize downtowns, you get the crime under control. And so those are all intertwined together as far as unleashing the full potential, which is so important to me. Another major area we're focused on is mental health. And this is one that has no partisan label to it. It's been everybody across the state, urban, rural, suburban. When we announced $1 billion of investment in dealing with the mental health crisis, which has always been there, under the surface, but what we saw during the pandemic was quite extraordinary, and no one could have foreseen this, even in the first year or two. But now the lingering effects of what the pandemic did to our young people in particular, they're just kind of unanchored during that time, 2 years, and a lot of them, teenage years are tough anyhow, but not to have a support system and to have that connection with an adult or have resources available to them through, even a school nurse paying attention to them. They didn't have that for a long time, and now they're a little bit adrift. And we're losing more young people to teenage suicide and other challenges, more going to treating, self-medicating with substance abuse. So fixing the mental health problem has to happen. So I declared in my State of the State that the era of ignoring the mental health challenges in the state is over. We're going to fund it. We're going to work on youth challenges. We're going to focus on the adults who need help, and also bringing more money to make sure there's more psychiatric beds and services online, and dealing with the opioid addiction. You've heard me tell before, I don't know a single family that hasn't been affected by the opioid crisis, and now laced with fentanyl. It is so deadly. That's how we lost my nephew. We thought he was on a different path, and all of a sudden, the fentanyl was too much. And so this is personal for a lot of us, and we have to do so much more, but giving people better options, alternatives, just giving them hope can also make a big difference in their lives, and that's something I'm committed to. We're announcing more money for Finger Lakes, in particular, $45 million for this region to support the addiction treatment and recovery programs that you have going right here. I visited many of them, and I want to make sure that we have this in addition to $12 million in federal grants to support what's going on right here, but not just keeping the status quo, but really ramping up and doing much more in the outreach space. And foundation aid for our schools, the amount of money that we're investing in our schools is extraordinary this year. 10% increase overall. This year it's $34.5 billion, the largest ever. But I want to make sure that we're devoting some of that extra money to mental health services in schools, because there's too many schools out there that there's nothing available, nothing. And the teachers they're not trained. They shouldn't be expected to be, the parents, the teacher, the disciplinarian, the nutritionist, the mental health therapist, all the different things we ask our teachers to do. This is something that they should not have to worry about, that we should have support right in the schools. So we're increasing money for schools. Here in the Finger Lakes, there's an increase of 11.4% from last year alone. That is extraordinary, $267 million for this region, which I think will be well spent. I mean, this is an area we need to make sure that our city schools and our suburban rural schools all have the resources they need. So for the first time in history, we're going to have fully funding foundation aid and making sure that we invest in that. So here's why it all ties together. We have great opportunities in economic development. This is the place businesses want to be. How do I know that? because they're coming. I can see them. I talk to them on the phone. They tell me they want to be here because they see, for example, the challenges out west with resources and water. You come to upstate New York, you have a factory that needs to be powered by energy and by water and have plentiful water and electricity. We have it here in New York State. That is something we took for granted. Now those are priceless commodities for businesses looking to expand. So making sure that we seize the opportunity. And the semiconductor industry, when you hear about Micron, that is not just Syracuse. You know, that's led to an opportunity we have right in the Batavia stamp facility. A new company I've talked about on the phone, they're coming from all the way, it's a German company, they're in England. It creates 600 jobs in Batavia because of being a part of the supply chain for Micron. That's just one example of how all over the state of New York, our education foundation, getting smart people, getting them educated, making them ready for these jobs because the jobs are coming. The jobs are coming. And whether it's building, we need a lot more people in the trades. We're going to be building for 20 years with Micron. And those are good paying jobs with great dignity. I want to get more young people interested in those careers as well because the sky's the limit. If we can build it, they will come. And that's what we're understanding from them as well. So let's continue our upstate manufacturing success stories, creating all those great jobs. And we're going to continue focusing on investing in those facilities every single way we can. And I'm going to keep working with Bob Duffy. And I'll call anybody anytime. I call into other states. I'm always recruiting. And if you got someone you want me to, the live one on the wire, Bob, let me know, and I'll reel them in for you, okay? It's what I do. So, you know, we're going to continue building the pipeline. And again, the semiconductor space, how do we make ourselves more competitive? We're establishing, the first time ever, the Office of Semiconductor Expansion, Management, and Integration. Coincidentally, all that sounds, if you abbreviate it, goes to OnSemi. So that's our semiconductor office. I literally spoke with the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, in Washington 2 days ago. She said they are so excited about how New York State is creating this office because when companies think about where they want to go and they can come a one-stop shop and have support, finding out about the federal state incentives, where they're going to get the workforce development done, how they can partner with a local community college to teach young people the skills that they're going to be looking for. That's how it all ties together. That's how you corner the market. That's how you become the preeminent place in the nation, if not the world, for semiconductor manufacturing, and it's happening in upstate New York. So that's why we're doing it here. So I need our community colleges to step up, and that's why we're allocating $17 million from Monroe Community College for a new advanced technology center. That money is going to help us expand technical training and also lean hard into their nation-leading optics program, which is really important to this industry, to our region as well. So, and they'll also be creating technicians for the semiconductor industry. So when we landed Micron, and believe me, they were heading out the door to go to Texas. I said, you're really going to Texas? So we had a nice dinner in Syracuse. Unfortunately, it was January and it was bitter cold last year. I said, well, it's not always like this. But I described, I said, you know what, and I really leaned hard because I know this area so well. I said, you need to get down to like the Finger Lakes and go see what we have up in the St. Lawrence Seaway area and the beautiful downtown. I said, we got great museums in Rochester. And so I really was like doing this sell job on it. But I also said, but also I will make sure that our community colleges are your partners. And that's why we're investing in Monroe Community College to make sure that they have what they need so I can go back to Micron and say, remember I promised you 9,000 skilled workers and 50,000 part of the supply chain? I said, I'm working on that as we speak with our budget this year. So that's the direct connection between the funding we're putting on the table and making sure that they can upgrade their labs and their nurse training facilities as well, and so many other places because we have a lot of work to do. Cornell Tech, food innovation. You know, I was with all these other governors, and every one of them, I think most of them, they have this image of New York State as skyscrapers, subway, you know, Statue of Liberty. It's all New York City. I said, oh, you have to expand your horizons. We are really an innovator when it comes to food processing, food growth, you know, food agriculture is one of our bread and butter industries. You know, we're number 1, 2, or 3 in so many areas. And we have Cornell University The Kenora Tech Food Tech Innovation Hub is extraordinary in what they're doing. So we're leading edge in this space. I want to continue investing in this to help create these opportunities to keep us positioned in leadership positions. So that's going to modernize their facility in Geneva, and that's going to help us have cutting edge technologies to increase our yield and make sure that we don't fall prey to the food insecurity, which is a problem in so many other parts of the world. I want to make sure that we are independent, not relying on food sources from other countries. Infrastructure sounds kind of boring to a lot of people unless you're in the field, but I always view infrastructure as a way to connect. It connects communities, it connects people to their jobs, it connects people in places. So I think that this is another great opportunity, not just for the great jobs that we're creating, but we're announcing over $96 million in DOT capital projects right here. We're going to replace bridges over the Erie Canal, and as someone who's gone on the Erie Canal, I can point to exactly where the bridges are that need a little extra help. But the Erie Canal, again, what a great resource this is. The Erie Canal is so beautiful. This is what I also talked about to Mike. I said, you need to take a boat, go along the Erie Canal. You need to get down to all the beautiful communities that are connected by the canal. So we're going to be paving, doing bridges over the Erie Canal. We're going to be paving Route 104, which I know is a mess, because I've been on a lot of times. Just so you know, I really hate potholes. I got this thing about potholes. Maybe it's because as Lieutenant Governor, I did so much time in the car. Bob knows about this. We traveled, I think we lost track, but maybe 14 or 15 times around the world, mile-wise. It's a lot. So I have a personal experience with every single pothole. So I'm really proud to announce that in the Finger Lakes alone, just since I've been governor, we've filled over 101,000 potholes. You're gone. Goodbye. So I keep track of things like that. But we're going to continue investing, 418 miles already paved. And so I know how important it is. You also get a different image of a community when you are on potholes and the curbs look kind of run down. You kind of feel like it's, oh, this community doesn't have a lot of pride in itself. Look how, how crummy the infrastructure is here. So we can fix that. I also want to support our Monroe County's multimodal hub planning for $2.5 million to help them do what they need to do, because the freight industry is growing rapidly up here, and we need to be able to be ready for that. So we're working on that as well. And I'll tell you, and I keep referencing back to these governors I met. I had this one governor from Utah. He says, I went to this most beautiful place. He goes, there was like a bridge up there, and then there was this river and all these gorges and cliffs. And he goes, I can't remember the name. I said, you're talking about Letchworth State Park. I said, that is, some people call it the Grand Canyon of the East. I actually call the Grand Canyon the Letchworth of the West. So he knew about this, and I grew up there. I have to tell you, I spent my childhood jumping off the cliffs before the signs went up that says you shouldn't do that. This is a long time ago. I swam in the river, and it is beautiful. Our natural resources here are so gorgeous. So we're going to continue investing $10 million for Letchworth State Park to keep making sure that it stays as spectacular as it is. $4.5 million for the running track bridge. We want to get that done, and also $3 million for the Genesee Valley Greenway, because these are our treasures. They're there for families to enjoy, but also, again, it's just part of that overall quality of life that's so important to all of us. So here's the Rock the Riverway. We're going to keep enhancing that as well, and also so many other assets here as well. So, and one more thing I want to mention, honoring the legacy of an extraordinary Rochester native who has a birthday coming up, and what she meant to the advancement of women's rights is extraordinary. We are announcing $10 million for the Susan B. Anthony Museum. I have been there so many times. It is a jewel. The story is fabulous. It's inspiring. And the problem is, because she didn't grow up in a really big house, there's not a lot of space for people. So when you want to invite, the tour buses to come and make sure that this is part of the trail, that people come from other countries and they go to New York, they go to Niagara Falls, they need to be stopping by the Susan B. Anthony House. And we'll be able to welcome a significantly higher number of visitors. Deborah and I have talked about this since my days in Congress. And I know this can be incredible, and I want to congratulate Deborah for your extraordinary work. I know you're going to be celebrating your gala Wednesday. I can't be there, but I'm there in spirit. But I also want a special thanks to Harry Bronson and Jeremy Cooney for their championing this money to make sure that this was in our budget as well as the entire delegation. So let's give Deborah Hughes another round of applause for all your work. So, you know, I love Rochester, I love my cities, but I also have a special place in my heart for the small towns. I actually spent some time in one of our tiny little communities. I used to work at a place called Patchen, New York. If you can find that on a map, God bless you. You have Buffalo, then you have Hamburg, then you have Boston, and then part of Boston is this little intersection called Patchen. That's where I had my first job making pizzas for 5 years. So there was nothing there but a gas station and a pizzeria, but it was charming. Well, at least we thought it was charming. So it's the small towns that are also the heartbeat of our communities, the small cities, the small villages. And so I want to make sure that we continue to invest in our downtown revitalization, but also some of our communities are a little bit smaller, and you know, where they could possibly spend $10 million when your community is that little is hard. So we started a new program just this year and listening to these mayors of these smaller regions, smaller communities, and we decided to put forth a project for allocating not just the 10 million, but also program where they could apply for 4.5 million. So we are continuing in my budget 100 million for the DRIs, the downtown revitalization, which can go to all sizes communities, but also our New York Forward program. And there's a little community called the Village of Perry. They're going to be receiving $10 million as part of our downtown revitalization. I want to recognize Mayor Rick Hauser. Mayor, stand up if you're here. Mayor Rick Hauser. Thank you. Congratulations, Mayor. The downtown is so darn cute. It truly, truly is. The thriving arts scene, I've been there, it's on the historic register, and it's going to be a top hospitality hub in the Genesee region. You have some really forward-thinking business owners. I've met a lot of the restaurant owners, and I think it's extraordinary. People shouldn't worry about the proximity to the sea serpent and the Silver Lake sea serpent, because I tell that story all over the place. And I say people need to go up there and see if it's real. You know, everyone goes over looking for the Loch Ness Monster. There's a sea serpent in Silver Lake. I just want you to know that. So check it out. Check it out. Prove me wrong. Prove that there's not one in there. But it's a charming community, and I know I'll be back to Perry to announce the specific projects. But you are an award winner, and congratulations to all my friends from Perry. So. We know you have plans for the bicycle routes and sprucing up the downtown businesses, and again, diverse housing options, because people want to live there, right? Got to be there. And refurbishing our historic buildings to make sure that they stay. So, and also there is something, the Chalk Art Festival. You still have the Chalk Art Festival? I went there one year. They asked me to draw something on the sidewalk. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know how to draw at all. It was so bad. I just drew like a giant smiley face. It's like, kind of lame, I guess, but that was all right. But you're going to have a local planning community, and I know it's going to make a big difference. So again, I'm very excited about that as well. I'm going to take a drink of water here. I'm announcing so much money, I'm losing my voice. Another community that I know well from traveling on the Erie Canal when I'd go from Buffalo on our boat, and you go, wow, it feels like 5 hours or so, and you're getting tired at the end of the day, and where are you going to stop? You're going to stop in Medina. $4.5 million for the village of Medina. It's an extraordinary community. Mayor Mike Sidari here. Mayor here. Stand up, Mayor. Congratulations, Mayor. This community, the sandstone buildings, I brag about this all over. Is that like the largest continuous, still existing sandstone buildings? If not, I say it is anyhow, but it's Sandstone Hall of Fame, the Opera House, Spence Opera House, which we spent a lot of years trying to bring it back. It's beautiful. I never go there without stopping at Della's Chocolates. She always packs up some of my favorite candies, in the bookstore, and the Train Museum, and I've been at, is it Tom's Diner too? Rudy, sorry. Tom's in Lockport. I can't mix up my diners. Rudy's, I got my favorite spot at Ruby's. So Medina wants to create recreational space, expand their tourism assets, build housing, invest in small businesses, and also really the land is contiguous to the canal. What potential there, to attract more people to come and stay overnight. And so congratulations to Medina. Love going to Medina all the time. We always hit your Christmas parade, which happens on the coldest day of the year. I'm always convinced, but it's beautiful. So congratulations to everybody from Medina. Let's give them another round of applause. And the next award goes to Geneseo, $4.5 million for Geneseo. Mayor Chris Ivers. Mayor, stand up. Mayor, congratulations. As the mother of a Geneseo graduate, I've spent a lot of time, again, going to the restaurants and stopping by the dorms, been seeing the downtown and seeing the great potential. Again, these communities have something in common. They've got the most spectacular architecture and well-preserved. You think about the rest of the nation, because we are one of the original 13 colonies, our buildings are a lot older, and for those that remain and that were refurbished over time, we have to continue protecting them so 100 years from now they can still see that beautiful architecture. So we want to make sure that not just as a center of government and education, that Geneseo can also be a place of entertainment and building on its strengths as a tourist mecca as well. And so it's important to turn the vacant buildings into downtown anchors and enhance the walkability, improve public amenities. And so all these communities, I'm so proud of them. I know them very, very well, and I look forward to coming back and announcing their very specific projects once those are decided. So because Perry, Medina, and Geneseo had citizens and elected officials who believed that the future could be better, you are the award recipients. So again, congratulations to those three wonderful communities. Thank you. And so, I'm done. I love coming here. You know how I care about this part of the state. And I did grow up at a time when people did think that upstate New York was so overlooked, and it probably was. And I hope you do feel that there's an energy here. Something that we didn't have growing up for a long time is that there's a confidence, a little more of a swagger than it was. And people are really just so proud of their communities. And it's that pride that inspires me as well. I'm so proud to be governor of this state and to know that I have leaders like all of you in this room who care deeply about your piece of the world. And because of what you do every single day, you're making that part of the world even better, not just for the people who live here now, but for generations to come. And for that, I thank all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to call up Rochester Mayor Malik Evans and give us a few reflections on our budget. Thank you.
As the young people would say, that was a mic drop moment. Give it up for our Governor, Kathy Hochul. You know, I often say that the governor has been spending so much time here in Western New York, and particularly in Rochester, that we need to get her an apartment here. We can get her one right at Innovation Square. I think we should. What do you think about that? So thank you, Governor, for your leadership. I also just want to recognize my partner in City Hall, Council President Miguel A. Melendez. Council President, if you just want to wave your hand, give it up for Miguel A. Melendez. And I'll be brief in my remarks because the governor really has said it all. But just let me say that this governor, who has made history, who will go down in the history books, in her inaugural address, she said that she didn't come to this job to make history, but to make a difference. And I can tell you that as mayor of the city of Rochester for the last year and 1 month, but who's counting, she has helped me also strive to make a difference in Rochester. And even before she announced this budget, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, $10 million, that's making a difference. The Inner North Project, $100 million, that's making a difference. The Rock the Riverway Initiative that she continues to support and fund, that is making a difference. her work around violence prevention and helping us reduce gun violence from 2021 to 2022 in my first year, that has made a difference. In having one of the few urban areas with a state park, the High Falls State Park that she announced before, that is making a difference. So Governor, we thank you for your commitment to Rochester in the way that you continue to make a difference. Now, I know something about crafting budgets. It's never easy. It's a difficult task, but it's important, and it is also a statement of your beliefs and what is important. And being that we're celebrating Black History Month, you know, one of Dr. King's last speeches that he gave, February 4th, 1968, he talked about the drum major, and the drum major is a leader, and the governor is a leader. Many of us in elected life are leaders, and we are sometimes asked, what do you want to be a leader for? Some folks just want to be a leader just to be a leader. Our governor said that she wanted to be a leader to make a difference. So how does this budget make a difference? And you've heard it, $1 billion to the New York State Continuum of Mental Care. That is how you make a difference. That is how she is being a drum major. That is how she is leading. She pledged not to raise income taxes in the 2024 budget. Why is that important? The affordability of New York State, the competitiveness of New York State is important. The New York Housing Compact to build 800,000 new homes to address a housing shortage across New York State. That is how she is making a difference. $337 million to reduce gun violence in our community. We know how that has affected us in Rochester. That is making a difference. $1 billion investment for health care, shelter, and other critical care services, on. And as a former school board president, $24 billion commitment for education. That includes $125 million for pre-K, $250 million for learning loss. I can go on and on about how this budget is making a difference. So while the governor has not set out to make history because she wanted to make a difference, I submit to you, Rochester, that she has done both. And Rochester will be better off because of it. Western New York will be better off because of it. But New York State will be better off because of it. And Governor Hochul, we are so grateful and so thankful for the leadership that you have shown, and for you not forgetting that New York State is a big state, and it doesn't stop past Westchester County. There's a lot of us up here, and she hasn't forgotten that. So thank you, Governor. And with that, I will bring to you a man who needs no introduction, a great partner in government, someone who I always call him this, I call him the real deal, because he is about the work. And he is an excellent leader in our community, the dean of our Albany delegation, Harry Bronson.
Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction and for the great work you're doing here in the city of Rochester and making it a safer place and making it a place that is one that we all want to live in and play in and work in. Thank you, Mayor. Governor, you are making a difference. You have made a decision to make sure that we're achieving the New York dream. And your proposals in this budget are the priorities that will allow us to live the dream here in New York. I want to highlight first, though, the Susan B. Anthony House. Probably many of you in this room have been in the house and touched the stair railing and thought to yourself, Susan B. Anthony touched that railing. And it just gives you goosebumps. And with this $10 million investment, Deborah and her team will be able to get a bigger space, draw more people in as a tourist destination, and have them be able to experience the wonderfulness of a woman who changed the world, Susan B. Anthony. And the governor mentioned that Senator Cooney and I have worked on this, but I would be remiss if I also didn't mention Senator Sommer Brook, Assembly Members Sarah Clark, Assembly Member Jen Lunsford, and Assembly Member Damon Meeks. As a delegation, we fought hard for those dollars, and I want to give them credit for it as well. So I was told I had to be brief, and I'm going to try to do so. But 2 years ago, I was appointed as chair of the Assembly's Committee on Economic Development. And many of the proposals that the governor has just highlighted, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and the New York Forward, each at $100 million, all that goes through my committee. And we have oversight to make sure that we get those funds. And we're going to be supportive of that in our negotiations, Governor. And the other thing we're going to be supportive is when I took over as chair, we made a transition of the priorities of the Economic Development Committee. And the governor has done so as well. The first change was that every time we're talking about economic development, we have to also talk about workforce development. They go hand in hand. And we want our incentives and our investments to be industry-driven, and they need to tell us what are the jobs they have now, what will they have in the near future, and what will they have in the long term. And so investments in our community college for that workforce development, that is key. So thank you, Governor, for doing that. The other priority in my committee is that whatever investment we make and whatever policy decisions we make, that we do it with an eye to move us closer to a more equitable and inclusive economy. We need to focus on those who have been left on the sidelines, those from marginalized communities. And so making sure that when we're doing the workforce development and the job training, we're going to make sure that we get folks from those marginalized communities so that they can be lifted up, they can work hard, and they can provide for themselves and their families and have a quality of life in a livable setting. So thank you for that, Governor. One last area, then I'll bring up Senator Cooney. Mental health. I want to publicly thank the governor for her work on mental health. She has signed into law 4 of my bills related to mental health, some of them related to making sure that Medicaid reimburses the mental health professionals, making sure that we have commercial carriers cover mental health, and then lastly, a bill she signed in June of last year was to authorize upwards of 10,000 mental health professionals be able to diagnose and do assessment treatment plans. That is going to make a difference. Thank you, Governor. And I can't wait to talk about the details about a $1 billion investment to address mental health in the state. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This governor delivers. This governor is willing, she says she's willing to call anybody, but she's willing to take calls from folks too, so that we can work in partnership together. So I can't thank you enough, Governor Hochul, for your leadership, for your partnership and your friendship. Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask Senator Cooney to come up and do closing remarks. Another great partner. So happy that Senator Cooney is part of the delegation.
good things are worth waiting for. Harry and Samar and I have to get on the road right after this and head right to Albany to make sure that we're doing our duties as legislators to make sure that we're representing your voices in the state budget process. But when you have days like this, Governor, it's worth sticking around for. And I'm just so grateful that we have this relationship and this partnership, not just for the annual budget process, but year-round. Rochester and the Finger Lakes region has, I wouldn't say been left behind, because we haven't been, but has a number of opportunities and challenges that are unique to us that need zealous participation at the highest levels of government. And Governor, you have listened to us and been available to us. And I'm just so grateful. And what we're seeing here today with the announcements regarding the Susan B. Anthony Museum and House, which I'm just so delighted for. And what we're seeing with our investments in MCC, which I'm also proud to represent, and across the Finger Lakes region is not just a checklist. You know, we see all these numbers on the screen, but behind each of those numbers is a group of citizens who have worked so hard to make sure that these issues get brought to attention. So many communities that have been waiting for the opportunity to make those critical investments in infrastructure or public safety. And budgets allow us the opportunity to set those priorities onto paper and to deliver for the people that we represent. This governor understands that. She knows us, she cares about us, and that is represented in today. Let's give the governor another round of applause. But I want to speak to you briefly from the perspective of being a hometown guy. I sat here, the governor was going through her presentation. I was just so proud. And I hope you were proud too. We have such opportunity here in the greater Rochester area. We have been working for years to redefine ourselves. And I'm caught by the moment here that we are here in this very special space and looking at the former Xerox Tower, now Innovation Square. And we're so proud of the legacy and the conversations and presentations that took place in this very room. But we're turning the page. We're building a new Rochester. We're writing a new chapter. And you're all part of that. This governor wants to help put words on the page. You know, she knows our community. And that's a unique opportunity for those of us from Rochester. You know, it's great that we have the first upstate governor in, over 100 years. But she knows Rochester. When you were listening to her speak today, she talked about chalk drawings and diners, right? She knows our community. She's hit those potholes in her car. And that's the more interesting, unique opportunity, is that she has relationships with each of us in this room. And when you have relationships based on service and based on zealous representation, we can get some great things done. You know, I'm so proud to represent my hometown with world-class universities, a workforce that is ready to get to work, and we have such great partnerships between the state delegation and our local leaders at the county and city levels that are united and committed to getting things done. So the Rochester that we're building today builds upon the legacy of the past, focuses on healthcare innovation, understands the opportunity before us with optics and semiconductor manufacturing, looks beyond what we are comfortable with when it comes to entertainment, and is focusing on digital gaming, media production. That's the Rochester that we're building for the next generation. And I want to tell you that you have one of the best state delegations in this state. cut the nonsense, stop the rhetoric, and we get things done. We work together both in the Assembly and in the Senate, and we always do what's best for Rochester. And when you have a partner like Governor Hochul, that job becomes so much easier. So what I would say is, thank you, Governor, for your continued investments, and I am so excited to help build the next generation of Greater Rochester. Thanks so much, and thank you for coming today. Let's get back to work.